Okay, look, when I say that this is a weird update on Vasili Podkolzin, I absolutely mean it. This is weird. Like, legitimate, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is actually happening kind of weird. And we're going to be talking about it here today in this video. So, we're talking about Vancouver Canucks prospect Vasili Podkolzin, a name who doesn't really need all too much introduction. He was the top Vancouver Canucks draft pick at the 2019 NHL Entry Draft, 10th overall in Vancouver. He's the guy who probably headlines the Vancouver Canucks prospect pool at this current moment. And I get that there's a lot of discrepancy between who used to lead our prospect pool in Elias Pettersson and then Quinn Hughes and now all of a sudden this guy, but Podkolzin is a Vancouver Canucks talent. And in fact, everybody kind of knows his deal. Everybody in Canuckland, everybody in NHL fandoms of other teams, we know what Podkolzin's about. He's a big solid power winger who is an absolute bulldog out there every time he is on the ice. The guy knows no quit. He is always going out there 110%. He's got the work effort of a Brendan Gallagher, but he is bigger, and to an extent you could argue that he is stronger. But when it comes to the production that a lot of people touted him towards having, especially after that Ivan Hlinka Gretzky tournament that happened 2 years ago, Podkolzin hasn't really been a guy to produce at that same pace in levels like the MHL or the VHL or the KHL where he is playing right now. His production was okay, but compared to what we saw at the Hlinka, it was underwhelming. But as Podkolzin has started up his season in this year's KHL run with the SKA St. Petersburg hockey team, he currently sits at 9 games played and 2 points. Again, not really too much of a surprise. We kind of know what exactly is the deal here going on with prospects and how Russian guys and Russian systems that are going to the NHL normally aren't in a spot where they're receiving the most love out there. That's how it is, and for the most part, this has been the absolute biggest problem for Vasili Podkolzin playing in the SKA St. Petersburg system. To go over what exactly we're talking about here, we're going to go over to Chris Faber's Twitter account. Faber is a buddy of mine, podcaster, Canucks Army guy. He does a very good job at covering Canucks prospects, and he has been tweeting out over the past few days status updates as to what's going on with some of the top Vancouver Canucks prospects in Europe. Höglander, Podkolzin, these guys, you name it. So, Faber has been tweeting about Podkolzin's ice time, and he has been noting that for some games, it would take Podkolzin 7 minutes and 21 seconds to get his first shift on the ice. We've seen other games where, in the first period, Vasili Podkolzin only gets 4 shifts, and he is last in his entire team in ice time. An average of 2:18 in a period works out to about 6 minutes and 54 seconds of ice time a night, which, for a guy who is the top Vancouver Canucks prospect, whom Canucks fans want to see develop, that's not good enough. Absolutely not good enough. He's spending his first full season in the KHL, and as a guy who was up and down last season and who actually started putting it together for SKA St. Petersburg in the playoffs last year, getting 6 minutes of ice time a night is absolutely not good enough. In fact, Chris Faber went out to talk about it like this. He said that the situation is starting to really upset him. He gives 100% effort every shift, is the best forechecker on the team, blocks shots, controls the puck possession, and gets physical. He's a coach's dream, and he isn't being given ice time. And in fact, this has been quite the story that even Rick Dhaliwal on TSN ended up having an interview with Podkolzin's agent, who happens to be Igor Larionov, the professor himself. Awesome to see that. Former Vancouver Canucks legend, former Red Army Hockey Club legend, an absolute all-time great. He had this to say about the whole Podkolzin ice time situation. Am I panicking? Not at all. He's a young player. It's a process. I watched him in back-to-back games recently. I talked to him and gave him a couple of pointers. He can be better, and he will be. I'm not worried. We also had this other quote, Podkolzin is going to have to remain positive and work his way through this, says Larionov. He was in good spirits when I talked to him. It's a process he has to go through. He is not making excuses and blaming the coach. He is saying he will work his way into the lineup. So, first off, before we proceed, I really like that. I like the quality that he has where he says, okay, I'm not being given ice time, it's because I'm not good enough. Not because the coach doesn't recognize my talent, but because I need to be better to give myself the opportunity to get that ice time. I really like that mentality. It's kind of the opposite of what we saw with some, let's just say, other Vancouver Canucks Russian players we have had on this team recently. No names mentioned. However, if you take a look at what has gone on recently, and I mean recently like in the past 2 days of SKA St. Petersburg hockey, if you take a look at his most recent ice time, from last week, Podkolzin had games where he was at 9 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes of ice time, but in the most recent game he played, he had 17 minutes. Well, why is that? Well, there's a very simple answer to that. It's because Podkolzin was actually forced up in the lineup. Why, you ask? Well, it wasn't because he worked his way up like he said he wanted to, but because more than half of his team got infected. Take a look at this. This is also from Chris Faber. I'm hearing there is a serious outbreak through SKA St. Petersburg. The coaching staff and up to 10 players have contracted it. The coaches will not be on the bench today, and the owner will apparently be coaching the team. More news coming down that it looks to be over 10 players now. Scary stuff. And so, because so many of SKA St. Petersburg got the thing, we're not going to say it because I don't want to get this video flagged, we ended up having what was literally the youngest lineup in KHL history suit up in the most recent SKA St. Petersburg game. The average age of the team in this game was 21 years old. Take a look at this. Teenagers Podkolzin, Marat Kusnedinov, who is a 2020 draft eligible. You have Kirasanov, Krovyakov, Spiridonov, who is a San Jose Sharks prospect who I like a lot, and Chibrikov are all dressing for the team. Podkolzin was given the ice time because for once in his life he wasn't really, quote-unquote, the young guy on the team. He was one of the young guys who happened to have the most experience amongst the young guys and thus was forced into a top 6 role. In this game where Podkolzin did indeed play 17 minutes, he did finish off a -2. He got 3 shots on goal, he had a hit and a blocked shot as well. And this kind of thing is probably going to continue for the next few games. Because, well, you know, if you have the thing, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and that includes the players in the KHL. Like, seriously, if there's a time for Podkolzin to prove himself as a KHL guy, it's now. But at the same time, it's still kind of weird because, like, half of his team is out with the same thing? This is what JD Burke said on the matter. Being like one of 2 skaters on SKA to not contract that wasn't what I had in mind when I went on at length about how elusive Vasili Podkolzin is. And this is why I said this is weird, because this guy wasn't being given any ice time, and all of a sudden he was because his team got wiped out. Miraculously, he wasn't wiped out either, and now he's playing on an SKA squad that has the average age of 21. Do you know how absurdly young that is for a pro hockey team? For example, Vancouver, they're a team that people say is a young team, right? We know they have their dinosaurs, but still, young team, right? Vancouver has the average age of 27. If you took 6 years off of every Vancouver Canucks player, including the teenagers, you have what is the average age of the KHL's SKA St. Petersburg in their most recently iced game. So all we have to do now is just hope to the hockey gods that Podkolzin doesn't end up suffering the same fate as the rest of his teammates that were forced to stop playing. We hope now that it's going to be Podkolzin using this top 6 ice time in a way that is very, very positive to his overall projectability in the lineup going forward. Rumor has it that KHL teams don't really like developing young prospects who are already confirmed to be going over to the NHL, and Podkolzin his entire tenure has said that he wants to do that. So now is the perfect time for everybody to take a look at it and say, yup, you're making a mistake if you're playing me on the 4th line. Play me in the top 6, allow me to do my thing, let me score some goals, let me score some points, and give me a chance to get out there for more than 6 minutes a night, eh? How about 15? Or 17? Maybe even if the going gets tough, 20? Who really knows? So, talk to me in the comments what you think about this whole idea. It's crazy, I know. I said it was weird at the beginning. It's weird. But tell me what you think about this Podkolzin situation. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.